My name is Tammy Stafford. I am a broker owner here at Advance One Professional Real Estate. Today I'm going to do a class on doing a listing agreement. So this is everything and all the paperwork surrounding our listing agreement. So the first thing you need to do is go log into www.car.org. Once that opens up, there is a section right here on your left side. It says Zip Forms Access. Now you're going to click on that form, and here it's going to validate your login. Hopefully you already have your login information. If you don't, see your manager or broker, and they'll help you get logged into CAR and get your account started. Once it has validated you, you can click on Continue, and it will open actual zip forms up so that you can start on the listing agreement. Once this item opens up, then we're going to have some tabs here across the top, starting at the left. We got new, import, export, delete, status updates. These are all tools that we can use during zip forms. But the first thing we're going to do is to start a new listing. So we're going to hit new. We got to start a new file, and that's what we're creating, a file within zip forms. As if you see below here, I have some files. So the first thing you're going to do is determine what tab I need. So am I doing a new listing? Am I doing a purchase contract or a new purchase? Am I doing a lease, a new lease listing, or are you going to do a quick sign? For this purpose, we're doing a new listing. So we're going to click on listing. We're going to put in an address of 123 Main Street, Lodi. Then we go down here and we have some choices here to choose from. But we're going to do a residential listing agreement. Over here you have the option to go to your computer and to some place where you have files saved of pictures of this property. And you can put a picture of the front of the house or something there for yourself to remember and recognize the file rather quickly. Rather than looking for the name, you can look for the picture. Below here it says select template. You can create templates, and in the future you can just grab what you need and pull it on over, and any small necessary documents you can get there. I will show you how to do that in another video, but not this one today. Today we're just going to show you how to get the listing documents you need so you can do your listing. Once you've typed in the address, you've checked it's residential, uploaded a picture or not, you're going to click on save. Once you save the document, it takes you over to the file. So in here you would put in the MetroList number, which you don't have a number yet because you haven't put it on MetroList, but you'll at least put in the street address, the city in which it's located, the county in which it's in, if I can spell that right, there we go, the state, and its zip code. There's all kinds of other things you can put in here. You could put the subdivision, the year it was built, or you don't have to put anything at all. It's up to you. When you're doing your files, how you want your files to look. I like to have as much done as possible, but naturally you can put in the zoning, you can put in the parcel number, you can do all that kind of stuff. And if you want to edit it at any time, you can just hit this button over here and it'll edit it. And you can go back in and you can enter the information again. See? And it'll save it for you. Once you've got all that done, then you can go over here to all forms on the right hand side. You see that it's blue tab, all forms. Click on that and it opens this window here for you to get your forms. The first form you're going to want to get is the cover sheet, and then you're going to want to click on the residential listing agreement. Don't click on the purchase agreement because it is really close to it. We don't want that one. We're doing a listing. Okay? And you want to go grab all the documents you need for this listing. So go down and look for Agent Visual Inspection, and as you notice, everything is in alphabetical order. And so there's Agent Visual Inspection. I'm going to click on that, highlight it in blue. See, it stays blue, means it's over here in the gray area and it's saved in my file. And as you notice, all of these are in alphabetical order. So you can go down and look for the items you need alphabetically, or you can go up here to the top and you can type it in. And as you start typing it, it'll auto-populate. So I know I need a lead-based paint disclosure, Because this home was built in 1964, so I type in lead, it auto-populates my lead-based paint. So I'm going to click on that, and as you see, it drops it over here and gives you notification it's there. The next one I know I need is going to be the real estate transfer disclosure statement. Buyers, this is a statutory disclosure for sellers. They must disclose the statement to the buyers of any property, single-family residence. The next one I know I need is the seller property questionnaire, and that one also needs to be filled out by a seller for any single-family residence home 1 to 4 units. So you want that form. So I've clicked on that one. The next one we're going to want is the statewide. So start typing in statewide. So there it is. It auto-populates. Statewide buyers and sellers advisory. As you can see, real estate transfer disclosure statement's already in blue. So that I know I need. So I'm going to click on that. The other thing I know I need is water heater and smoke, and it's right there. So I'm going to click on that one too, since I can get that one right away. And the other thing I know I need is the water conservation. And this is the form for the new low flow items that went in on code in 2017, January 1st. So I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to pull that one over. The other one I know that I like to get is the marketing advisory condition. So market condition advisory. I'm going to click on that one and pull that one over. Okay, so now I know I have my residential listing agreement, my agent visual inspection. I got a lead-based paint. I got a real estate transfer disclosure statement. I have a seller's property questionnaire. I have statewide. I have water heater and smoke. I have conservation. But the other one I know that we need is a non-foreign status. And that one, seller's affidavit of non-foreign status. So I typed in non, you see that in there, it dropped it right there. Seller's affidavit of non-foreign status. We need one of those, okay? Now our file is complete for a listing to start, and that's our listing. So first thing we're gonna do is open up the cover sheet, because a cover sheet we can add all kinds of information and it'll auto-populate it all over to the other documents, so we only have to fill out one form for most of the information. So you ignore the buyer's stuff naturally because we don't have a buyer yet, but we have a seller. So we've got John Smith, right? And we definitely want an email address for John Smith. So scroll all the way to the bottom and put in John Smith's email address, because in order to send anything out DocuSign, we need to have an email. You might want to put their phone number in there if you have it. If you don't, that's okay too. But definitely the email. You don't need to fill in the address or anything unless you want to. I always check mark this box over here because that red X will show up on all documents where the seller needs to either initial or sign. So I like using that form. So, and then we have a second seller. So we have John Smith, and then we have his wife, Janice Smith. She's also selling the house. We're going to check mark over there so her name gets a check mark. We're going to put her email address in here. Now these aren't real email addresses, just so you guys know that. This is just so that I can fill in this form and show you how it's filled out. Okay. So now I have my seller's information. I scroll down. I have property information. I don't have an MLS number yet, but once I get it, I'm going to enter it in here. I have my assessor's tax number, which is the same thing as the tax ID number. So I'm going to repeat that up there on the tax ID number. We're going to put in a listing date. So let's say they want to list it and have it go live active July 31st. That's what we're going to put there. And the list price, we're going to list it at $390,000. So we're going to type in $390,000. We don't really need to worry about any of this other stuff. This gets your listing going. This here is for the purchaser, and when you get a purchase contract that comes in, this is going to be a residential property, and you just kind of go down and start filling in the things you want to fill in. Naturally, everything is not required, but you can do that, and it helps speed up the process when you get to your documents, okay? Escrow and title you can put in here. Actually, though, in California, the buyer has the right to choose the title company, not the seller. But usually, if the seller chooses it, then the seller usually pays for the title policy, and it's not split. And customarily in our area, it is split. So the next thing you do is you go down to this cover sheet and you're going to put in the listing broker's information. And naturally, if you've done this before, it's all will help auto-populate your information if it's been used before. And you can just click on it if it has, and then you hit the tab. Moves you over to the next section. Your listing office brokerage number, that's your DRE number. You definitely need that in there. That is a requirement, so don't skip that at all. And then put in your office zip code, your office phone number. Naturally, you should complete as much of this as possible and leave no blanks on your information. It's very important that your client have all the information they need at a moment's notice when they go to look at their listing agreement. Okay, so it's very important to do that. So you want to fill all this stuff in, including your email address, so that everybody has your email address, meaning your clients, the sellers, they have your email address. You want them to make sure you have an email address, okay? And you want to make sure your fax number is out there if you have one. If you don't, then you can leave it blank. The lender, that would be the lender based on the purchase, so you don't need to put anything there. I guess you could put the lender in there if you know the lender information for the sell, their lender information, but you don't need to. This is for pest control information. The pest company, you type that in, and then your disclosure company. The biggest thing on disclosures is that really we are supposed to disclose to the buyers about the natural hazards involved in a property prior to close of escrow and prior to even receiving an offer. They're supposed to get that information. So it's important to get the NHD, natural hazard disclosure, prior to you getting into contract on your property. Okay? So you should put an order that when you get the listing. Make sure you get the listing. If you're going to offer a home warranty to a buyer or do a seller's home warranty, you can type that in here. If you have an HOA association, you can type that in here. And that's pretty much your cover page. Click Save up here in the top, and it confirms that it did save it. You go over to the left in the green tab, and you hit back. And then you go to the next document, which is your residential purchase agreement. Your residential purchase agreement, you will see, has generated and auto-populated the information that we have typed in on our cover sheet for us. All right, so here's the agency disclosure. You want to check mark sellers. Got the sellers' names for us already. It's got the civil code page for the seller. It's got the possible representation. Already has their information, my information to sign. Wire fraud disclosure is already auto-populated into the listing agreement when you bring it over. And then this is the listing agreement. So we said we were going to start July 31st. And I always do my listings no less than 6 months to and beyond. Okay, I don't do them for less than 6 months. So I always do a 6 month or more listing. So you want to have your start date and your end date. You want to put in the date you prepared this, which would be today. And as you see, it auto-populated the address, the city, the county, the zip code, and the APN number. It also auto-populated the price that I put in there. The next line 3 is the compensation to the brokers and the cooperating broker. So here you're going to check mark and put in your percentage of commission that you're requesting from that seller and you want from that seller. Or you can put in just a dollar amount. If you put in just a dollar amount, that would be your dollar amount. There wouldn't be any commission percentage of the sales price. So it's one or the other, but you can do that. I do percentage. Line number 2 is that within certain calendar days after the listing has expired, you can put in here, how many ever days you want. The seller can't sell the property to any other cooperating broker or buyer that came through the property when you had it listed. But naturally, you need to give the seller a list of buyers and brokers that have come through the home. Okay, so that way they can't sell it expired listing after you have already shown it to a buyer or someone else has. Okay, then you'd be owed the compensation of what you have up here. So I put 90 days. I usually do 90 days. Some agents do 180. Some agents do a year. They do 365. I think that's a bit much, but you can do what you want there. Check with your broker of record or your manager of the office to see how they want you to do that. So I've got 6% here, and naturally, this 6% commission is going to be split with the cooperating broker. And that's where this down here refers to. So line D says that the seller has advised the broker to cooperate with other agencies and other brokerages to sell the property. And in retrospect, because of that, that seller is going to give some of this commission to that agent, okay, that sells the property. So I customarily split it 50-50 and give half to the cooperating broker. Okay, and if there's a dollar amount that you put up here in the dollar amount section and not a percentage, then you would give the dollar amount that you want to give to that cooperating broker here and check mark it, because that has to be disclosed to the seller, and the seller has to be aware of what they're doing. In addition, on line C, we're going to go back up. In addition, the seller agrees to pay the broker. So the broker can actually possibly ask the seller to pay for advertising and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of advertising going to happen on this property, okay? And that's where you would put that. Line F, the seller hereby irrevocable assigns to the broker the above compensation from the seller's funds. So that's the seller's agreeing to pay you this compensation of this 6% split in half, 3 to you, 3 to the selling agent broker, and seller's agreeing to pay you out of their proceeds from the home at close of escrow when the property closes. They agree to pay you a compensation. Seller represents that the seller has the privilege and is entitled to enter into this listing agreement and has no other obligations to any other person that may be selling this property. The seller also warrants has no obligation to pay any compensation to any other brokerage at this time. Okay, so they're telling you they're not in any kind of agreement with anybody else. See these little X's that are red? Remember I said check mark, they'll put a little red X where the seller needs to initial or sign. So that is how that looks right there. This next section is you can include and exclude items from the sale of the home. You would type it in here, but you'd also want to make sure that's in your MetroList listing under agent remarks. If there's anything on the property that is leased, and one of the big things we have right now is solar, water softeners, propane tanks, and alarm systems, any of that's leased, then you need to mark that on here. You need to know about that. Those leases need to be given to a buyer as part of the disclosure. The next one is the MetroList. If you are in the located in and listing it in the MetroList, which is the local listing service for San Joaquin County, then that's what you would put right there, MetroList. But let's say you don't belong to MetroList and you belong to one of the foothill ones, then you would put in that MetroList that you belong to. Let's say it's Calaveras or Tuolumne County. You would have to check mark this box right here, indicating that the MetroList that you belong to and are listing this property in is not the local MLS for this house and this property in which location it is. But this MetroList is our MetroList for San Joaquin County, so you're good there. Seller will initial here, and the agent and broker will initial here. And the purpose behind the agent and the broker listing initialing here is that the broker is the one that actually owns the listing at that point. The agent is representing the seller, but the broker is the one that actually would own the listing, okay? So I'm just letting you know that. And then below that, they would initial here as well on that page. The next page here talks about the MLS rules, so forth. MLS requires that we put pictures and we put the property in the MLS. We need to have a picture of the front of the house. So this here, seller elects to exclude the property. Let's say they don't want it in the MLS, then you'd need to check mark this, and you would need to go to the MLS and you would need to get their waiver, and you need to submit that to MLS and let them know it's not going to be on the MLS. Otherwise, you have to list that property in the MLS. And you have so many days to get the listing in, and you have so many days to get the picture up. So you want to make sure you follow those rules so that you don't have any trouble. Also, if the the seller wants to opt out for pictures, they can, but again, you want to get a waiver signed by the seller that they don't want any pictures of their house in the MLS. Okay? They can opt out of internet. This one's for internet. They can opt out of internet if they don't want the property on the internet. Then you have to naturally get them to sign a waiver and let the MLS, they don't want it on the internet, which is kind of crazy, but it does happen. You're representing the seller, broker and seller's duties. This tells everybody what each person's duties are in regards to the contract. This states that the agent is asking the seller to do some sort of inspections here, which may happen. You may want them to do a pest inspection or a roof or a whole house or something like that. Well, you're going to check mark that here so that they're aware of that. This says that we've given them the agency disclosure. We've given them the possible dual agency to represent a buyer in any given transaction. Security, insurance, showing instructions. You want to make sure that your sellers are aware that you're not responsible for the interior or any personal belongings if another agent or somebody comes in to show the property and things go missing. So you want to make sure that they put away any valuables or remove any valuables from the property, especially if they have guns or very valuable jewelry. You really don't want them exposed or near any buyers that may be able to grab those kinds of things. But we want to make sure that they understand that it's important for them to be safe. Okay, the next one is key, safe, lockbox. If you're going to put a lockbox on the property, this says you can. If they don't want you to, you can check mark here, which removes from putting a lockbox on. This is for the sign. You're going to put a sign in the yard is what it says. If they don't want one, then you would check mark the box that says I don't want a sign, and the seller don't want a sign. I'm not putting a sign up, and that's all you got to do is check mark this box. We're equal housing opportunity, and it talks about attorney's fees. If somebody sues somebody, then whoever wins gets their attorney's fees paid by the loser. This contract, listing agreements are subject to management approval. So you really want to take your listing agreement once you get it signed, and you want to take it to upper management, your broker or your manager of the office, and get approval of that listing probably before you even put it on the MLS, because they have to approve this listing. And you need to do that within 5 days after executing this contract, okay? It says it right there. Successors and assignees, the agreement shall be binded upon the seller and the seller's successors and assignees. So any successors, the contract goes with them. It doesn't cancel. And any cancellations would have to be done in writing. Disputes, resolutions, so we have mediation, arbitration, talks about that, and it advises in regards to those items. And then it talks about entering this agreement in all prior discussions and negotiations and agreements between the parties concerning the subject matter of this agreement are superseded by this agreement, okay? And then the seller is agreeing and telling you that they do have the authority and the warranty to sell this property. They are the owners. Representative capacity, if there's another signer. If you have a trustee or something like that, you can use the RCSD form. And that's what this is, and you check mark that saying you're using that form. Otherwise, you have them sign the agreement, and the seller's advisory that advises them in regards to their statutory duties, what's required by law that they need to do as far as their disclosures. And even if they were to do it for sale by owner, they're still required by law to do the statutory disclosures, and a lot of sellers do not know that. So that would be your listing agreement. When you're done with that, you click Save. And then you go back and you look at your other documents, each one of them. So you want to go look at your agent visual inspection, make sure that is completed and filled out and ready to go. This is basically for you. This is the top. This is for you to go and do a visual inspection of the property. You want to make sure that you have all this stuff completed and filled out prior to going. And who's going to be present, because you want to complete this as soon as possible to get it to a buyer as soon as you go into contract. And you want to fill it out, sign it, and get it over to them right away. Okay? So I always make sure I have it filled out ahead of time, and I'm ready to go. Okay? And representing seller is advance 1. And the agent is Tamara Stafford. I don't know who the selling agent is yet, so I leave that blank. I click on Save. Document is saved. I click on the back button again on the left side, and I go to the next document. I make sure these are all completed and filled out. This is going to be part of a residential purchase agreement, which I do not know the date yet, but we will fill that in when we have a contract. This is where the seller signing is saying this home was built in blah, blah, blah prior to 1978, and there's a possibility of lead-based paint and so forth. The buyer would sign here, and the other cooperating agent would put their brokerage name there and sign there. Click Save, and then go back again and go to each one of your documents like that and make sure that the necessary items are completed and filled out, like here. If it's in blue, we fill it out. The items that are blacked out here is because we, as real estate agents, are not allowed to put pen to paper and answer these questions on behalf of the seller. We can get in really big trouble for that. Bad, bad, no, no. But then you go down to this page, it requires you to sign and put your brokerage and check mark one of these boxes. You must check mark a box. So see attached visual inspection, then you should have your visual inspection done and attached to this when you hand it to the buyer's agent. Otherwise it says agent's notes no items, or the agent notes the following items. In my brokerage, Advanced One Professional Real Estate, you will be marking see attached visual inspection, and you will do a visual inspection and you'll sign right here. Cooperating broker will complete this section below you. The sellers will sign here, and then you will sign here. Your buyers and cooperating brokers will sign there. Again, save and go back to your full file, and then go to the seller's property questionnaire. And again, things that are highlighted in gray and black means that we are not allowed to touch or answer those questions. Okay? Do not answer them. Nowhere on this page or on this document do we sign, but your sellers do. Sometimes, though, it does help to sit with your sellers and let them fill these out, because they do have questions about what it's asking. And if you're there helping them fill it out, it's easy for you to answer the questions. You, as an agent representing them, it is your responsibility to go over those two documents and make sure every single question is answered with a yes or a no. And if there is a yes, then it is your responsibility to make sure that the seller answers why in the explanation in the form provided. There's a line provided on those forms for you to do that. Okay? The next form is your statewide buyers and sellers advisory. So the first page talks about the buyer's rights and duties. Then it's the seller's rights and duties, the broker's rights and duties. Then it breaks down the table of content, investigation, everything that's in here. This is all new form. This is a good form. Investigation of physical conditions. Talks about physical conditions. It gives the buyer ideas of how and what they can investigate. Now, naturally, this is not everything. Buyer comes up with something they want to investigate, they are free to do so. And they can do that within their time period of investigations per the purchase contract. But this form should be given to the buyer's agent for the buyer to sign after acceptance. Okay? So at the very bottom, last page, is where everybody signs. You have your buyer's signatures, seller's signatures. Naturally, they don't have to put their address if they don't want to. The agent and brokerage representing the buyer, and then the agent brokerage representing the seller. And that is your statewide buyers and sellers advisory, which is totally completed for you because we filled out what? The cover sheet here. So that's always nice. Then you have your water heater and smoke. Water heater and smoke detector basically is notifying the seller that the code to law states that the seller will make sure that the water heater is strapped according to code prior to close of escrow. And then the smoke detector says that the seller will make sure that their smoke detectors where they are supposed to be and operational prior to close of escrow in accordance with the area's codes. So you really should check with the fire department in your area to determine what your codes are and what the fire department recommends, because that's what the state says. Whatever the fire department recommends, that's what we want to do. So that's what we do. Here's your water conservation and plumbing fixtures. Basically, the state passed a law January 1st of 2017. Any home built prior to January 1st of 1994 are supposed to equip that home with low flow faucets and toilets. Okay, it doesn't say that it's required to sell the home, but it was required for every homeowner January 1st, 2017 to do this. Okay, 1 to 4 single family homes. Okay, 2017. It doesn't go into effect for multifamily units until 2019. Okay, but go through this with your client. This also has the carbon monoxide detector, which says that is also code that is required before you can sell a home. The lender requires it. The appraiser looks for it when they come out. They want to see a carbon monoxide detector. So you have to put a carbon monoxide detector in the property, okay? Before close of escrow, and it must be working. Seller sign initials here, and they will sign down here. There is no place for the agents to sign. They do not need to sign. And that would be your water conservation. Then the marketing condition form, it's just a good form to use. Talks about marketing condition, explains to the buyers offering and pricing, non-contingent offers and what they are, appraisal, loan, and what those items are. Especially if you're dealing with a first-time home buyer, this is great information for them. Inspection contingencies, what they are, and how they pertain to the contract. Okay? Then the buyer broker recommendations, what does that mean? Multiple offers, what does that mean? And seller's consideration and how the sellers consider possibly accepting and not accepting certain offers. It's just some informational stuff for your client. I think it's a good form. I recommend using it. Then you have the seller's affidavit of non-foreign status. It just basically, again, the seller needs to complete this. Are they an individual or a corporation? Is it their main home? If you fill this part out, they complete this part with their name, check mark the box, do nothing down here, then what this says is that the title company and escrow company, one of them will take care of verifying that they withhold and all that good stuff. So you would have your seller sign, and then the buyer would sign recognition knowing that the title company is going to take care of that. Seller initials here, buyer initials there. If you have 2 sellers, you need 2 of these forms. 1 for each seller, okay? If you have 3 sellers, you need 3 of the forms so that you have 1 for each seller. That is your listing agreement. Those are the CAR forms that are required. Your broker may be requiring other necessary forms on listing agreements, but I suggest you check with your broker or manager on that in regards to that. If you have any further questions, please feel free to give me a call at 209-712-4593. It was great talking and showing you how to use zipforms and how to do your listing agreement. If you have any questions, I'm always here to answer them. Thank you very much and have an awesome day.